its Lekgotla from the 16th to the 19th of August 2016 at the Sifaka Presidential Guest House here in Pretoria. The August 2016 Cabinet Lekgotla marked the halfway point of the fifth administration's term of office. The Lekgotla took time to congratulate South Africa for a very peaceful, free and fair local government elections that took place on the 3rd of August 2016. The Lekgotla took place in the context of a continuing outlook occasioned by various internal and external factors, as well as the ever-present threat to our sovereign credit ratings. The Lekgotla provided an opportunity for Cabinet to collectively reflect on the implementation of government's program of action and provided crucial lessons for a much nuanced and effective implementation of the National Development Plan, which underpins the medium-term strategic framework 2014 to 2019. Firm decisions were taken on concrete trackable plans which will take implementation of the medium-term strategic framework and the 9-point plan to a higher level. These plans require all sectors, which includes government, civil society, business and labor, to roll up their sleeves and work together to ensure that together we take South Africa on a sustainable social development and economic growth trajectory. Concrete plans have been put in place to deepen implementation in the next financial year, which allows our government to align the medium-term strategic expenditure framework to the implementation of the 9-point plan. The Cabinet Lekgotla focused on 6 key areas. First, a global and domestic macroeconomic analysis was deliberated on, together with further proposals for economic and fiscal consolidation in the next year and beyond. This enabled Cabinet to locate its economic growth and fiscal decisions within the global economic context. Global recovery is still expected to strengthen, but to a lesser degree than previously estimated, as Brexit impacts unfavorable on global growth. Sub-Saharan Africa is reflecting challenging macroeconomic conditions as its major economies adjust to lower commodity prices. Other risks include potential vulnerability in the euro banking system, financial stability in the emerging markets, geopolitical risks, climatic and health risks. The medium-term framework sustains social gains in a weakening economic environment. Our government remains committed to meeting its medium-term fiscal targets and will take additional steps to do so as conditions warrant. Future commitments of the state will depend on the reforms that are based on effective governance and with participation from the private sector. Second, the Cabinet Lekgotla also reflected on the implementation of the 9-point plan to grow the South African economy, which was announced by the President Zuma in his State of the Nation address in February 2015. The focus was on key programs and projects to deepen the implementation of the 9-point plan in the next financial year. This led to the adoption of key impact projects for the next financial year and beyond, which aim to have a substantial positive impact on the economy through unlocking key levers. Cabinet took strategic decisions to secure of the Industrial Policy Action Plan, including that the Department of Public Enterprises and National Treasury will consolidate procurement for locomotives into a single institution in Transnet to ensure efficiency and compliance with the localization requirements. Finalizing the evaluation of financial incentives for business to strengthen conditionalities and achieve greater value for money to enhance more inclusive growth. A trade statistics architecture being developed by the South African Reserve Bank, National Treasury, South African Revenue Service, and States SA on the key issues of illicit financial flows. Introducing legislative amendments to implement the 30% set-asides. A new procurement bill is being developed by National Treasury by March 2017 to unlock the potential of SMMEs, cooperatives, and township and rural enterprises. Implementing the new preferential procurement regulation will be done by the end of August as an interim measure to this radical intervention. Government will also focus and continue focusing on labor-intensive sectors, including the need for various mechanisms to support greater impact on jobs, such as the use of our incentive programs, amongst others, clothing, textile, leather and footwear value chains, agro-processing, and business process services. The successful oceans economy intervention will scale up projects to expand coastal and marine tourism in order to realize significant job creation. To resolve the energy challenges in our country, the Department of Energy will complete the Integrated Energy Plan and Integrated Resource Plan for electricity by the end of 2016 to provide certainty on electricity pricing and investment, especially in the generation capacity. The Interministerial Committee on Investment, chaired by President Zuma, will coordinate 40 priority investment projects across government. These 40 projects include the agro-processing and agri-parks, energy and infrastructure, manufacturing and services projects. These projects were selected based on having a high-scale economic impact linked to the 9-point plan, being able to take off within the next 2 years, and able to also crowd in further investment and community benefits. The Department of Trade and Industry will also finalize its strategy for the deployment of locally developed technologies by the end of 2016. Further, the Department of Science and Technology and Treasury will secure additional funds to sustain and expand the Sector Innovation Fund through the Economic Competitive Support Package. Priority continues to be placed on water saving and minimization of water losses. By September 2016, agreements are to be completed with municipalities with higher water losses to facilitate placement of agents and a clear funding model to be completed. In fast-tracking the implementation of the South African Connect strategy to connect schools, health facilities, and government policies offices, the ICT policy will be finalized and approved. A broadband war room will be established to accelerate the implementation. Thirdly, the Presidential Infrastructure Coordination Commission, PICC, presented the Lekgotla with a high-level report on the implementation of the National Infrastructure Development Program, as well as concrete infrastructure implementation plans in the next financial year and beyond. Fourthly, a summarized progress report on the implementation implementation of the medium-term strategic framework was presented, which concentrated on the review of key aspects of the MTSF so as to improve the implementation in the next financial year. Whilst acknowledging the work done to date in the 9-point plan, it was also acknowledged that accelerated implementation is necessary to enhance economic growth. An action plan to ensure greater expenditure on municipal infrastructure maintenance and to enforce proper financial asset management will be developed and implemented to extend the lifespan and quality of our infrastructure assets. Cabinet resolved to initiate a national process towards the negotiation of a social compact between labor, business and government to stimulate economic growth and mitigate job losses. Fifth, over and above the alignment of the MTF to the 9-point plan, National Treasury and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation presented their recommendations on work done in the past year to align the national budget to the National Development Plan as well as to the medium-term strategic framework. Government has identified a set of budget priorities for 2017-18 financial year, which will focus, amongst others, on maintaining infrastructure spend, strengthening support for skills development, and maintaining real levels of spending on the poor. Work will continue identifying efficiencies and savings over the remainder of the MTEF will continue. Sixth, the Lekgotla also reflected on progress made and the next steps in the reform of state-owned companies since the Cabinet Lekgotla of February. This is in view of the important role played by SOCs in the radical socio-economic transformation advocated in the program of the Fifth Administration. The implementation and stabilization program has progressed with varying degrees. Strengthening of leadership to execute the turnaround strategies remain critical. ESCOM has largely been stabilized with both operational and financial performance improving. The Inter-Ministerial Committee will continue to oversee those more than 13 other SOEs' specific interventions. The Lekgotla also placed on the finalization of the shareholder ownership model, which will inform the legislative framework for SOEs reform by November 2016. Work will also start for the creation of the Presidential SOCs Coordinating Council, which will provide President Zuma line of sight on strategic decisions and interventions to create SOEs that play a transformative role in a capable developmental state. The decisions and plans from this Cabinet Lekgotla will bolster, in our view, the implementation of government's program of action and give confidence to South Africa that we are still on course on a sustainable social development and economic trajectory. Cabinet also was saddened by the passing away of our former colleague, the Minister of Sports and Recreation, Reverend Arnold Makhenkesi Stofile. As a veteran political activist, he participated in all the pillars of our government at various provincial, national, and international structures. President Zuma declared that Reverend Stofile will be accorded a special official funeral category 2. As we remember this great leader of our country, the official memorial service for the late Reverend Stofile is being held today at 11 a.m. at Abbotsford Christian Center in East London. President Zuma ordered that the national flag be lowered, be flown at half-mast at all flag posts in the Republic of South Africa on the day of his funeral. The late Reverend Stofile will be laid to rest at the funeral service taking place at the University of Fort Hare, where he was a chancellor on Thursday, 21st August 2016 in Alice. President Zuma will deliver an eulogy at the funeral of the late Reverend Stofile. We convey our deepest condolences to his family and friends during this painful and difficult period. Lala ngoxolo, Tata Stofile.
Thank you very much, Minister Radebe. I believe the documents are being distributed so that you all have sight of the statement and what was discussed. I'm going to ask that when we do the first round of questions, we'll do the questions, we'll take one round here, and then we'll do another round in Cape Town, and if there are further questions, we can do a round here. If there's cameras and things that you want to put up, or you need to get microphones, can we just get that in order while we sort out who will speak first? Name, media company. I'll start with you, sir, ma'am, and the lady at the back.
Thank you, Lady Poko. My name is Tsepo Igane from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Minister, can you clarify the issue on the reports about the no fee increase, as we've seen through the weekend press, that the president has ordered that the zero fee, that the Treasury and the Minister of Higher Education should actually go out and source those funds. So what is the cabinet position if this issue was discussed there? And on the issue of the SAA board, with regard to the issue relating to Hong Kong, demanding the financials of the SAA or the ground to the SAA airline, is that a concern from government itself first? And what is the status about the reconstitution of the board of SAA for its operation? Thanks.
Okay, ma'am.
Sorry, thanks. You asked the same question now, please.
Okay, so you, ma'am, I'll have your question. Yeah. No, the lady at the back. Sorry, I can't see.
Hi, it's Carol Payton from Business Day. Minister, firstly, the 30% set-asides, could you just provide a bit more information on that? Would that be on all government procurement? Would it be on certain government procurement? How's that going to be worked out? And what is the kind of trade-off that you're looking at in terms of cost versus transformation and empowerment? Then two, the reprioritization of the budget that was spoken about at the ANC NEC meeting. If you could just sort of link that up to what you were saying around the 5 priorities that the Lekgotla identified, because those sounds very different to what we've had in the past. So, I mean, is there reprioritization of the budget, or is it just the same? And then lastly, on the State-Owned Companies Coordinating Council, what is that body, and how's it going to work, and what's it going to do? Thanks.
I'm going to take one question here at the front. That'll be the 3 for this round.
Nicholas Bauer from ENCA. Mr. You said very fleeting that you took a chance to congratulate South Africa for a free, fair and peaceful election in August. But was anything discussed at cabinet level as to how national governments may be affected in any way whatsoever, not to have different governments at local level? Especially in the big metros of Johannesburg, Tshwane and Nelson Mandela Bay?
Okay, thanks. I think that will be the first 3, Minister.
On the issue from SABC about the report on the city press yesterday, as the presidency released a statement yesterday, this so-called conflict between those two individuals is non-existent, but we did discuss the issues of higher education. As you know, education is our apex of priorities. But in terms of the process, as you know, the President appointed a commission headed by a judge to look more deeply into this issue, and there's a process unfolding at the present moment of where all stakeholders and interested parties can be able to get and present their views on this matter of national importance. Cabinet, as well as we go towards the MPS medium terms budget policy statement, and next year we'll be able to indicate what the position of the government will be. On the issue of the SAA board, there was a report, as I've indicated, on state-owned companies. We understand that it is far advanced now, the issue of the board of SAA. So between public enterprise and national treasury, we should be able to see progress in that direction. On the issue of set-asides, this is part of the transformation agenda to ensure that as we deal with procurement in our country, we must also support small and medium enterprises, especially those who were disadvantaged by the previous system of apartheid. So what is happening that through National Treasury, there is a bill that they are working on to give effect to this 30% set aside. On the issue of the reprioritization of the budget, the aim there is to ensure that the budget is aligned to the National Development Plan, 9-point plan, and the medium-term strategic framework. So a joint team between DPME and National Treasury has been at work since January of this year. So that is a work in progress in terms of that reprioritization. The Coordinating Council, the aim here is to create a coordinating council that is similar to this infrastructure coordinating commission that is chaired by the President, because of the very important role that state-owned companies play in the economic development of South Africa. So that's the basic aim of it. On the issue of local government, as we've said, our view is that the elections were free, fair, and whether at different levels our position remains the same. That is why part of the key decisions of this Cabinet Lekgotla is to ensure that we also pump resources on municipal infrastructure, especially on maintenance. As you know, almost about 1.3 trillion of assets, they are at jeopardy because of lack of maintenance. So the issue of maintaining the infrastructure that we have will play a key role in advancing the agenda of the NDP, so that the financial asset management in municipality must be strengthened.
Thank you, Minister. I want to check in Cape Town. Do we have any questions there?
Yes, we do have questions. We'll take 5 in this round. We'll start at the back, Marianne, and then Janet. We'll take 5 in this round. Over to you, Marianne.
Good morning, Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. A couple of clarifications, and I'm just trying to understand how the Cabinet Lekgotla can talk about reprioritization of budgets without actually identifying in specifics where the reprioritization of budget must go to. And I was wondering whether you could perhaps elaborate a little bit in terms of the university and higher education fees discussions, because or do you expect, does the Cabinet expect us simply to wait until the end of October when the MTBPS is released? Also, perhaps you could assist, and maybe it is part of the documentations that are being handed out. We don't have them in Cape Town. But would you be able just to shed a little bit more detail on these so-called high-impact projects, sort of to unlock the levers of high-impact implementation, specifically with the 40 priority projects? You mentioned, for example, agri-parks and energy, but I mean, the agri-parks have been on the agenda of rural development for over 3 years. And according to Rural Development's last annual report for the last financial year, the rollout of those agri-parks is lagging a bit behind the target set. So perhaps you could elaborate on some of those things. Thank you very much.
Hi, Minister. Janet Hurd from Media 24. Just to elaborate on the fees issue with universities, there is an urgency here for the fees next year. There isn't much time. Could you just clarify whether there was a discussion about a 6% or a 0% or some kind of clarity in terms of the discussion at the Lekgotla? And secondly, with regard to the SABC, which is really a situation that caused a lot of discussion and there's a lot of conflict at the SABC, with even Parliament now considering having an inquiry. What discussion was held about the SABC and the current situation with the with Mr. Motswaneng and the staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yanyabara, Sunday Times. Two questions, please. The first being on the IEP and IRP, which you referred to regarding energy. Sir, we've been hearing this for a very, very long time, and every time the dates keep shifting. Question is, how far are we on this nuclear deal, and when will we know whether all these indications, because there are not rumors of a Russian deal, is true or not? And then secondly, on the fees, which have already been asked about, I would like to ask two very specific questions. The first is, has the President in fact issued a decree that no fee increases will be had? And secondly, if so, where must the money come from? Last time the universities had to cough up. They don't have any more money. Where must the money come from for such a decision by the President?
Good morning, Minister. Linda Eames for Business Day. Just on the independent power producers and the decision by Eskom regarding no more contracts, did Cabinet discuss this? Did it take a position on it? Thank you.
Paul, you're the last one.
Morning, Minister. Paul Lekgotla from Bloomberg. You mentioned the discussions took place within the context of South Africa facing a sovereign ratings downgrade. Has Cabinet done any study or examined what it has to do to avoid a sovereign ratings downgrade for the country, how that will impact the budget and the competing forces for budget allocation, such as the student fees, infrastructure spend, maintenance, and so on? Thank you very much.
Back to you, DG.
Thank you very much. There were quite a few questions there, Minister. Just to recap. Firstly, the discussion around the reprioritization. I think there's a requirement just to talk to a little of the detail around what the reprioritization entails. Some clarity on the situation for fees in relation to the media statement that was released over the weekend. The IEP announcement and the discussion around the role of nuclear. And I think there is definitely a question there around the IPP. And I recall that there was a statement actually by the Minister of Energy during the week. If you can take us through those, Minister.
Thanks, Sam. Maybe on this reprioritization, and I think I've already indicated the earlier question that was asked. So my answer is the same as the one that I've indicated when we ask. On specific high-impact projects, I'm sure in due course the Department of Trade and Industry will distribute this document titled Top 40 Investment Projects, which is an initiative of government and the private sector in terms of this Invest South Africa one-stop facility. Just at random, without any particular hierarchy. Industrial Development Corporation, there is a planned investment of about 11 billion rand located in Port Elizabeth that will be also by the private sector. There is another one by the Department of Energy, the Independent Power Producer Procurement Project, an investment of about 45 billion rand located in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. So it goes on and on. When the DTI distributed, you can have it and read it at your leisure. So those are some of the high impact projects. On the issue of fees, I've already indicated that there is a consultation that is underway. At an appropriate time, I'm sure we shall know what is going to be happening. And also as part of this reprioritization process, we are identifying even savings that can be made to effect this reprioritization as we are going to the next financial year, including the medium-term budget policy statement. On the issue of SABC and Mutswaneng, we did not discuss that in particular. On the issue of the energy, I think Acting DG Lipuko has already indicated that the Minister of Energy, Tina Jumat-Peterson, has highlighted that we have not changed our position in terms of the IPP. In fact, this independent power producer program is regarded as one of the best in the world, where about 192 billion rand of private sector investment has already been put into the South African economy. So there is no way that we can change course midstream. It's going ahead. I've indicated as well that the energy policy and plan is going to be finalized before the end of 2016, and we're going to be having more details. There is no Russia deal project right now. As you know, both the National Treasury and the Department of Energy, they're just starting the process of testing the market. So at an appropriate time, the issue of the cost, the issue of affordability will be decided upon before any action has been taken. We did make this announcement in the January 1st cabinet briefing in January of 2016. Our position has not changed from that statement. On the issue of credit rating, you recall that in the beginning of this year, the President assigned Minister of Finance Pravin Gordhan, together with representatives of labor and the private sector, to go on a roadshow because of our commitment of ensuring that we should do everything within our power not to have this credit downgrade. And I think the reports from many rating agencies confirm that we are still on course because we have not changed our plans as announced in October of 2015 by the Minister of Finance, as also has been outlined by the President in the State of the Nation address in February, and also confirmed by the National Budget as announced by the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Minister. Can I take a round of questions? I'm going to start on this side. Sir, ma'am, was your hand up? Janet, you again, and then anyone else on this? No, okay, just the two. You first.
Terence Creamer, Engineering News. On the broadband war room that you mentioned, can you tell us, Minister, who's going to be participating in that war room, what its mandate will be, and what the implications are for the court legal action that might be being taken around spectrum? On procurement reform, you mentioned almost a two-phase approach. I just wonder if you could bring us into, shed some light on the phases that you see evolving around procurement reform. You suggest there's going to be an implementation from March 2017, but there's going to be a more radical reform coming thereafter. Can you give us some understanding of those phases and what will come post March 2017 that we should expect? And lastly, on the share ownership model for state-owned companies, can you give us some of the flavor for the guiding principles that will be in that model? I know it's only going to be published, you say, in November, but what will guide that model, and what legislation specifically it's going to affect? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much. Minister, on the broadband issue, the white paper on ICT is currently with the Cabinet. Was the white paper discussed, approved? Is it going to go ahead, or do you think it needs a review? Is this why there's a broadband war room? You need to sort of relook at that white paper. And then secondly, on this SOC coordinating committee, what would this group, this committee actually do? So for instance, I mean, the infrastructure committee is similar structure, sort of there to fast track implementation, would this committee sort of fast track things like board appointments and issues like that? Thanks.
Thank you, Carol. Minister?
Sorry, I've got one more, if I may. I'm so sorry.
All
Just the locomotive thing that you mentioned, putting this single institution, Transnet, to be responsible for procurement. Does that mean the price locomotive would also then go into the into Transnet and be done by the single institution? Thanks.
Can I then just take one more? Sir.
Thank you for taking my question. From the New Age. Did Cabinet perhaps discuss in particular the changing of guard at the local sphere of government? And will this perhaps, changing of guard perhaps affect some of the implementation of the policies that you outlined or touched on, briefed on this morning? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Minister.
Thank you. Broadband Forum. All the relevant ministers that are part of this ICT cluster will be part of that war room. And part of the key issues there is to finalize the ICT policy, which is going to be coming before Cabinet soon. The issue of the spectrum, as well as, there is this conflict between ICASA and the Department of Postal Services and Telecommunications. Hopefully it will be resolved outside the court, hopefully. Maybe we need the wisdom of Solomon for that, but that is the aim of this broadband war room, so that we can be able to expedite the ICT. As we know that we are told that if we can be able to resolve issues around the spectrum, its contribution to the GDP can be as big as 1.4% of our economy. So it is of critical importance that we move with speed in accelerating the usage and deployment of ICT for broader economic goals. On the issue of the locomotive institution, I think our aim there is to ensure that we utilize the economies of scale between all entities that belong to the state. You will recall as well that about 18 months ago, even the AU designated South Africa to be the manufacturing hub of locomotives. So we need to ensure that South Africa is properly positioned to play that central role. So if we have separate procurement processes of big budget items such as locals, BRASA, Transnet, it won't, in our view, make us to be competitive. On the issue of the coordinating council, we have already answered that question, because we're trying to use the model of this coordinating commission on infrastructure to state-owned companies, as I've said, because of the key role that these enterprises play in the economic lives of our people. If you look at Transnet, for an example, is that plays such a key role in our ports. You look at BRASA, you look at SAA, you look at ESCOM. So we need a properly coordinated mechanism to drive the economic agenda for a radical socio-economic transformation in our country. The change of guard in the municipalities does not affect our NDP goals of bringing about a better life for the people of South Africa. We're still going to be supporting all spheres of government, even in those municipalities, because I'm trying to decipher what to say, that in metros that are not governed by the governing party, we're still going to be supporting them, because it's not about the votes, it is about changing the lives of our people. Thanks.
I'm not sure if there were any questions from Cape Town. Paul usually doesn't let go. Anything from there?
Yes, DG, we do have some hands here. Marianne, the first one, Prince, the second.
Hi, Minister. Just a quick follow-up and a clarification. By when do you foresee the Presidential SOE Coordinating Council to be in place? And what happens to the, I think it was an IMC that the Deputy President chaired with regards to the realigning and restructuring and all other matters related to SOEs. Will that fall away? Is the move towards a Presidential Coordinating Council perhaps a vote of no confidence in the Deputy President for having yet to resolve the issues around the state-owned entities like SAA, etc.? Thank you.
Hi, Minister. Llewellyn, Prince of Netwerk 24. Just issue of clarity with regard to the SAA matter. You said that there were discussions around the issue and that the issue of the board is in advanced stage. Can you just give us more clarity on what this discussion is going to with regard to the board of the SAA? Thank you.
Back to you, DG.
Thank you very much. I'm guessing there are no other questions from Cape Town, are there? I want to close the Cape Town round.
There are no further questions from us in Cape Town, DG.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Coordinating Council, I think by the end of this year, we'll be knowing where that is going to be, but a decision has been taken that we should have that SOC Coordinating Council to be chaired by the President. The IMC that was chaired by the Deputy President is one that has been working on this matter, so there is no question of a vote of no confidence in the Deputy President whatsoever. On the SA board, I've indicated that our report is that the names are being spoken about now between Public Enterprise and National Treasury about the board of South African Airways.
Colleagues, if there aren't any additional questions, I've closed Cape Town, and it's your last chance to ask any questions, clarity.
Thank you.
No? Okay. Thank you very much. Your time is much appreciated. I know you need to file the stories, Minister Radebe. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.